Your Honor, may it please the court.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walt Wilkins, and myself, along with Jake Hofreth, we are the prosecutors in this case. This is Detective Jared Sparkman and Master Deputy Blake Wolf. They're the co-lead investigators in this case. I want to thank you for your service and thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this case to you. The state has the obligation to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's the standard that you're going to hear from the judge. You're going to hear throughout your deliberations and throughout this trial. We have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And there's a lot of folks in this courtroom right here that you see. And so we are the prosecution. We represent the state. We have the honor of representing the state in this particular case. The defendant sits over there. That is Zachary Hughes along with his attorneys, and they represent him in this particular case. But there's many more other individuals in this case. We have the court reporter. She's very important. She is taking down everything that we're saying, recorded, so we can have a record of this entire case at its conclusion. And so that's what she'll be doing, and she'll also be marking exhibits. So if you see her over there writing on things, that's what she's doing. She's marking the exhibits in which we will identify things that we will be presenting to you for your review. This is Madam Clerk. She's involved with a lot of paperwork and handles all the evidence that we submit into the court. So she'll be handling all the exhibits that you will get to review upon your deliberation. And of course, we have the judge up here. And if you'll notice, the judge is a pretty important person. He's got a black robe. He gets to sit a little higher than the rest of us. And there's a reason for that, because he is the referee in this case. And he's going to be calling balls and strikes. He's going to be telling us what the law is. And when one of the parties has an objection, he's going to say whether you're right or whether you're wrong. And because there are rules in this courtroom, ladies and gentlemen, the rules are officiated by the judge to make sure that we maintain the rules and decorum in this courtroom and the evidence is presented to you in the proper way. But the most important people in this room, ladies and gentlemen, are you. As the judge said, you're the triers of fact. You decide what the facts are. And the great thing about serving as a juror is that you don't leave your common sense at the door. You get to bring it with you in here. And you get to listen to the testimony that'll come right from this chair right here. And you get to look at the evidence that's presented in your deliberations. And you can see it along the way of how this case progresses. You'll hear different kinds of evidence. So the judge said, you hear direct evidence and circumstantial evidence. They're both very powerful pieces of evidence. They can be used in any way in which you accept them. Direct evidence is simple. It's something that somebody can see, taste, or smell, something that they see. If you see somebody commit a violent crime, that's direct evidence that they saw that person there. Circumstantial evidence could be just as powerful. For example, if you look outside before you go to bed and you see your lawn nice and green, and you wake up and it's covered in snow and there are footprints walking through the snow, well, you know that somebody walked through your yard from the time you went to bed and the time you woke up. You don't know who it is, but you know somebody did because you can see footprints. You can derive information from that to form a logical conclusion. Another good example of circumstantial evidence is DNA evidence. If you have DNA in a certain location, you can derive that that person was at that location at that particular time. Even though no one may be testified that they actually saw him there, but the DNA shows that he was or she was there at a particular time. It's very powerful, circumstantial evidence. So, ladies and gentlemen, this case is about the murder of Christina Parnell. And the state intends to prove that Zachary Hughes did in fact murder Christina Parnell. And you have a number of charges that you're going to be deliberating on. You have harassment charges, you have a burglary first degree charge, and you have a murder charge. Harassment is basically doing something that would intrude into the personal life of somebody, causing mental anguish. Burglary first degree means you went into somebody's home for the purpose of committing a violent crime. And then, of course, murder is an angry heart. We have to show that Zach Hughes had an angry heart. He was mad. And you can derive that information from any of the testimony, any of the evidence that we have that we present to you. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear about a number of characters. The main character is Christina Parnell. She was murdered on October 13th, 2021. And she was living in the Canebrake neighborhood with her sister, Tina Parnell, and Christina's daughter, Aida Mello. They were living in that neighborhood in a house in Canebrake. And Christina Parnell had been going through a very tremendous child custody dispute with John Mello since Aida was 3 years old. At the time, Aida was 9. For almost 6 years, they had been battling custody over Aida Mello. And that custody dispute raised to a certain level beginning in October of 2020 when John Mello and Aida Mello went to Italy. And John took Aida Mello to Italy, and Christina fought to get her back. And in April of 2021, Christina obtained Aida's custody. And they came back from Italy, and that's how they ended up living in the Canebrake neighborhood. So the question is, how did Zach Hughes become involved in this case? Well, Zach Hughes had a relationship with John Mello starting in about October of 2020, around the time when he left for Italy. And that relationship grew. And it grew to the point where Zach Hughes began inserting himself into this custody battle at the behest of John Mello. And they began doing things like sending photos of her to the neighbors in an effort to shame her, an effort to show that she's a bad mother. And as the custody dispute it elevated into a situation where custody might not go in John Mello's favor. And at that point, Zach Hughes made the ultimate decision. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hand the indictments from the grand jury charging Zach Hughes with harassment and burglary first and murder. And the grand jury, true bill of these cases, they came out, and these are the charging documents. And while the defendant at this point in this case is certainly clothed in innocence, once you hear the evidence from that chair, you hear the evidence that's presented to you, you're going to find beyond a reasonable doubt, and the evidence will show that Zach Hughes is a cold-blooded killer. And he committed murder, he committed harassment, and he committed burglary first. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, the defense is going to defer opening until our case. Thank you.
Which is your right. Stay. All right, Your Honor. The state calls Sarah Young.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.